got a kind of cool zoo brew for you guys today. It's one that's near and dear to my heart. I played it probably all during the Jund era when Bloodbraid Elf was still legal. And it is Boom Bust Zoo. Now, Boom Bust Zoo is not as good as Mid-Range Zoo right now, or even Planeswalker Zoo, which both, by the way, were made by Kibler. Boom Bust Zoo is still pretty good. The difference here is that there's no Bloodbraid Elf, so it's not over the top. If you guys didn't know what the Bloodbraid Elf thing is, and we'll put our cursor on Boom Bust so you can see what it is. You used to be able to cascade into Boom Bust, and then instead of saying, I'm going to cast Boom, you can say, I'm going to cast Bust without paying its mana cost. And you can destroy all lands, and you were probably left with, like, a, critter that can attack something. Hopefully something like a Deathrite Shaman, which is better. As well as a 3/2 Haster. So you just beat down while they're just trying to rebuild their lands. You can't do that now, but Boom Bust is still a very potent spell that you can use to punish greedy decks. So if you've got like rock-esque decks, or Jund, or 5-color Gifts, 3-colored American Control, Tarmo Twin, and you want to punish people for being greedy, this is the deck to do it. Now, how does Boom Bust work? Let's actually talk about just Boom Bust real quick, what it is. Boom Bust is a 2-mana sinkhole, is what you're trying to make it into. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Corner case number 1, you have a Mana Dork. Now see, I've got 6 Mana Dorks in this deck. 2 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs. If you're feeling schnazzy and you want to get rid of Blood Moon, put more Stormbreath Dragons in or something, you can go 4 Noble Hierarchs, 2 Lotus Cobras. And what you'll do is you will go turn 1, land that can produce red, or if it's Bird of Paradise, any land. Turn 2, put down a fetch land, use your Mana Dork, use your red lands, use Boom Bust, target your land, your fetch land, and target the opponent's land that you want to kill. Crack it. There's still a legal target, so the spell doesn't fizzle. You get out a new land, and you tempo lose them. A spell. Corner case, you can do the same thing if you don't have Mana Dork. You got to do it on turn 3 though, so that way you can have a you can cast it, have a fetch land to target, crack it, do your thing. So you can do it for 3 mana too. 3 mana leaves you up an extra mana. It's kind of like almost like that the rewind spells. It costs 3 mana, but then you can rewind 1 land. Ish. Other things you can do is you have a Knight of the Reliquary out, you draw 1 late game. What you can do is you can target a land, like a Forest or Plains, with the Boom Bust, use your Knight to get rid of it, you still have the legal target on the opponent's side, you Stone Rain them. Other thing that you can do here is I put 3 flagstones of Trokalar. I don't ever pronounce names right. Forgive me. Although someone in one of my videos said that I was pronouncing the Brimaz wrong anyways. His name should be King Oreo, and that's what it's going to be dubbed for all the rest of humanity. So, flagstones is another thing you can do here. You can do it turn 2. You can, without a Mana Dork, you can put out a flagstones in any mana that produces red. Use your Boom Bust on your flagstones, and just like that, you have out-tempoed your opponent, and you've mana fixed. So, there's been many situations where I've used it with a Sacred Foundry and a flagstone, and then gotten a Temple Garden off of it. Now, going over the deck, there's also one other thing that we're going to need to talk about. Let's introduce the deck as a whole. There's 61 cards in the deck. You'll notice that first off. Yes, there's 61 cards in the deck. It's for an extra Mana Dork, and it makes me feel better. I'm also running a crap ton of lands, so I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. 61 cards in the deck, and I like it like that. And if I end up, putting a worship out, and I've got to, it turns into draw, go, because no one can win the game, then, 61, I'm going to win the game. You're gonna have 6 mana dorks here. Like I said earlier, you can do Lotus Cobra if you want, but I prefer the Bird's Paradise because it allows me to get an easier Boom Bust off. And that's gonna be 4 Noble Hierarch, 2 Birds of Paradise. Why 4? Because you want that Exalted. Why Exalted? Because you got 6 Exalted stuff here. You got 2 Qasali Pride Mage. Qasali Pride Mage, sort of the flex spot here. I choose to use Qasali Pride Mage because it's really, really good in the meta. It's probably the best hate bear in my opinion. So you got 6 different ways to get Exalted, and while that's cool with Knight of the Reliquary or Stormbreath Dragon or Wild Noctowl, it's for Step Links mostly. Step Links is a card that sometimes runs out of gas. So having out Exalted stuff in order for it to keep attacking is kind of important. It's sort of something you need to know. However, Step Links is really good in this deck. It's actually fantastic in this deck. It is a beat stick. I would argue to say that in this deck, as you see it right now, it is better than any other deck that runs it. Small Zoo, 1-drop Zoo, mid-range Zoo, Dega aggro, and oh, what's the other one? And Boros. I think this runs it the best. Reasons why I think it runs this the best. You can break your flagstones with the Boom Bust and still get 2 triggers off of the Step Links. You can put out a flagstones and with another one out, still get 2 triggers off the Step Links. There are 10 fetches in this deck. You will get use out of it. There's Wild Noctowl in this deck. Well, I guess that's just tax. Wild Noctowl is just a good beat stick. There is Knight of the Reliquary in this deck. You will get many, many triggers off of a Knight. You're running Kessig Wolfrun and a reliable access to getting the Kessig Wolfrun. You will, in fact, be able to pump up even a not big Step Links. A 0-1 Step Links can still attack for a crap ton. You have Exalted, like I said, that pumps Step Links. Everything in this deck can make Step Links a good attacker. Now, that in mind, you'll notice that there is a distinct lack of Tarmogoyf. No need for Tarmogoyf in this deck. Tarmogoyf is a great beater. In fact, he's probably even better in this deck in the fact that there's 2 Boom Bust and 2 Bonfire of the Damned, which are sorcery speed. That being said, Tarmogoyf is not as good as Step Links. Step Links is consistently a 4-5 or above. Tarmogoyf is consistently a 3-4, sometimes 4-4, 4-5. Much, much better to have Step Links because it beats down as soon as turn 2 happens rather than waiting down to turn 3. Let's continue on the deck before I talk a little bit more about Step Links. You've also got Stormbreath Dragon as a beater. I'm getting a lot of mana. I'm going to go ahead and do something big. This is another reason why I don't run Tarmogoyf. Stormbreath Dragon's a little bit better in my opinion. It's also better than Thundermaw Hellkite specifically for the reason that it can dodge Path. It sticks around longer. There's really little to no difference between 5 damage and 4 damage, and there's almost no difference between 4 toughness and 5 toughness. The only difference is the fact that it dodges Bolt and, like, I guess something else. It doesn't even dodge Electrolyze, because Electrolyze will still kill, well, Bolt Electrolyze will still kill a Stormbreath. Yes, it will tap things, like it'll tap relevant things, but all the flying relevant things I can think of off the top of my head are in fact white, and it has protection from that anyways. The idea here is to have a little bit more of stability than anything else. And Stormbreath Dragon, when it comes out, is stable. It's not going to be going away anytime soon. It lives through Bolt, and it lives through Path to Exile. Moving on, you'll see my removal suite here is 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Path to Exile, 2 Bonfire of the Damned. Now, 4 Path to Exile might not be the correct choice. It might be closer to like 3 or 2 Path to Exiles, and then whatever's that split for Lightning Helix. Reason why I've got it like this is because I just want to cover my bases. I would have to do a lot more testing to figure out if it was going to be a 2-2 split between Helix or a 3 of and 1 more Helix added on, or Bonfire of the Damned. Bonfire of the Damned comes in just so that I can swipe out things like Mana Dorks when I'm trying to land screw them. That's the reason why it's got included in the main deck rather than the sideboard. To To finish it off, we've also got our hate suite of 2 Blood Moon, 4 Boom Bust. Now, Blood Moon's a little hard in this main. I do it just because if I'm going to give myself this like land kill theme, I might as well do 6. 6 is a number that I like in deck building for aggro because it makes me feel like it's a good chance, a 1 out of 10 chance I'm going to get it. So it's a sort of like a stability factor for me. So the thing I use over Molten Rain, which you can feel free to use Molten Rain too if you prefer, is Blood Moon, because Blood Moon comes down and sort of can end games very dramatically. Again, we are not using it like a lock deck uses it, where it stops the opponent from doing stuff and we continue to eventually win like Scred Red or Blue Moon does. It is an Armageddon in this deck. Once we use it, chances are we may have one basic if we're like been ready for it. If we're lucky, we've gotten 2 basics out. Notice though, I only have 1 plains and 1 forest in my lands. So it is an Armageddon effect. There's been games where I just smack it down on turn 2, turn 3, and I go, I don't think the opponent can deal with it, and I may only have like a Noble Hierarch, and I'm going to have to swing for 20 turns, but I've screwed them, you know? And that's sort of the idea. As far as the land goes, it's very stock lands. You'll notice that there's a couple cool things. Flagstones I already went over. Kessig Wolf Run is fetchable off of Knight of the Reliquary. It makes even Birds of Paradise good in this deck. You're also going to run a Sindjiri Step. Yes, you might want something to kill lands or Stirring Wildwood, and those are better in the more mid-rangey kinds of decks. I think it's worser in this deck, and the reason why I picked Sindjiri Step is because of Blood Moon, because of Boom Bust, because of those things. My mana dorks are very important. Aside from my mana dorks being very important, Step Links is actually very, very important to me. I want to make sure that I can keep Step Links, and I want to keep Knight of the Reliquary alive. This is all fetchable with Knight. Again, drawing it is not the best thing in the world. Having it in your deck is amazing because it can be used as an alpha strike, and you can also use it to null removal, make it basically a time walking opponent, and that's fan-frickin-tastic. Now, before we move on to sideboard, I want to talk one more thing about Step Links. What is the order of playing Step Links, Wild Noctowl, and Noble Hierarchs, or Birds of Paradise? The order is this: always go for Step Links. Unless, now there is an unless, the only time you will not go for Step Links is if you have a 1 land hand, in which case Wild Noctowl is better, or if you have a turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary and you know it's going to be better because that'll turn on consistent food for Step Links, and that's what you're going to be using it for. Or if you have the Boom Bust ready to go, or if you have the Blood Moon ready to go. Then, and only then, is when you do the Noble Hierarch or Birds of Paradise before doing Step Links. Bear in mind, it is up to your discretion if you think it's more powerful to attack for probably 8 by turn 3, or to have Knight of the Reliquary, Blood Moon, etc. out and try to tempo out your opponents. It's up to your discretion, but Step Links is one of those cards that does run on gasoline, and you do start running out as the game goes on, so it's more valuable turn 1 than it is turn 2, turn 3. Alright, that out of the way, let's go over to the sideboard. I actually really like the sideboard a lot. 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Toper Orb. It's very standard. It's for Pod, it's for Twin, it's for whatever you need it. Grafdigger's Cage is Grave Hate as well. If you feel like you need more Grave Hate, I would put in a singleton Bojuka Bog. Aside from that, to continue on the land-hating theme, we have 2 Blood Moons and 3 Chokes. That would bring up, against like an American control deck, your total amount of hate in their lands up to 11. That's ridiculous. There's a good chance that you can play like a Blood Moon and they'll be like, no way, like mana leak that. Woo! I'm glad I dodged that bullet, and then be like, choke, and they're like, what the hell? What the hell? Even if they have the mana because of Boom Bust. It is very cool to make people hate you because of killing their lands. That's my opinion. Aside from that, I may have gone a little overboard with the amount of land hate. But you know what? It's actually not as bad as I'm making it sound. It is pretty good in the fact that if you can face a greedy deck, you can just lock it down and you've got the game won. Choke does a ton against those decks that are dancing around Blood Moon, like Delver or Twin. So you still got options, you know? Skipping that real quick, we got 2 Stony Silence, 2 Creep and Corrosion. I've got really no reason to go after enchantments, and I still have 2 main deck enchantment hates in my what do you call it? My main deck. So this is sort of like against aggro, and specifically against affinity. I suppose if you're having problems with Zoo, you could probably knock off a Stony Silence and turn it into another Bonfire of the Damned. But the real trick here is the 1 Rune Halo and 2 Worship. If I could put more in here, I would. They cover sort of each other's butts. I think I value Worship a little bit more with my Mana Dorks. But Rune Halo, you name against Storm, you name something like, what is it called? Grape Shot. And you've nullified half their deck. Even if you were to put down, like, Ruined Halo, name Great Chop, just in a perfect world, then go down and put Worship, they cannot beat you with their goblins. There's no way they can win anymore. Likewise, if you have 2 Ruined Halos, because if you like Ruined Halos better, you can name Goblin, you can name, you can name Goblin, you can name Grape Shot, and you win the game. Ruined Halo is really undervalued. You can name Valakut and save yourself from Valakut damages. You can name Tarmogoyf, and suddenly you've like nullified maybe 1 or 2 of their creatures on their side. You can name a ton of different stuff. You can name any of the twins that are going to come out, and you've got yourself saved from Twin. Now the hard part is actually attacking Twin and beating it with their millions of copies that they're going to block with now. But you can't lose anymore. At that point, you just hope to put out a Stormbreath Dragon. So there's a lot of things that you can actually do with Rune Halo that would surprise you. And Worship on the same end. It's just sort of covering each other's butts. They're both to like sort of hate out certain combo decks, and even aggro to an extent if you can manage it. So that's the sideboard in a nutshell. I hope you guys like it, and let's go play a deck. Colors at any rate. I think so. Did, right? Think I rolled. Yes. Oh, I didn't roll. So we'll put out the fetch land first and foremost. First and foremost. Alright, so come on. Greedy deck, greedy deck, greedy deck, because greedy decks are fun. Crack Lift Fetch. We have a Flagstone, so even if we get ourselves... we have a Flagstone, so because of that, even if we get a Boom Bust, we can still use it next turn. I don't need to hold that Flagstones. Okay. We're going to put the Flagstones out there, and we're going to Qusali Pride Mage. And pass the turn. Because Qusali Pride Mage is going to attack for 3. And Nail Reliquary is going to get ginormous. If I ended up drawing my 2 of Blood Moon, I would play the Blood Moon. I would play the... Yes, I would play the Blood Moon if he doesn't put out like some form of mountain right now. I puts out a basic plane, or basic forest, so I would not put out the mountain. But I will attack for 3. If he wants to Abrupt Decay it, he can Abrupt Decay. I don't mind. See how I called that? See how I called that? See how I called that? We will get ourselves a basic. And it's gonna be a 5/5. Oh god, it's so big. It's so big it can barely fit in my deck. I just went there. You guys enjoyed it. Admit it. Alright, so we've got a 5/5s out. With a Dark Confidant. Ooh. Dark Confidant, you are probably going to get killed. You are probably going to get killed, mind you. I could just put out the Blood Moon. I kind of want to put out the Blood Moon. But at the same time, probably should not put out the Blood Moon. But the Blood Moon is so tempting. It's so tempting. It's so... because he got Maelstrom Pulse and he's land screwed right now. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're living our life. I should have not attacked then. I should have probably done something like that. But we are gonna live the life here. We are gonna live the life. If he doesn't draw a basic, yeah, we're gonna live that life. Because he might have red in his deck. He might. But he's also stranded with the Dark Confidant hurting him. And I like that. I think he's looking up some kind of ruling. I don't mind. But he can't Abrupt Decay it right now. That's what's important. And a Dark Confidant, that's going to hurt him on his upkeep. And I'm just going to keep swinging. I mean, thank you for revealing your library. Get that life, man. Get that life for the Loom. You get lots of red, dude. Alright, so Life from the Loom is a weird addition. I guess he's not a rock deck. Could be a rock deck. GG! GG! Blood Moon did it. Blood Moon did it, guys. That's why I was like, yeah, we're just gonna do it. Because fucking Blood Moon. It is Blood Moon. Alright, so I don't really know what we're playing against. Blood Moon obviously was good. I think he's a rock deck. I think it's just a weird rock deck. But what if I just put Worship out then? What if I just put Worship out? And I'm gonna put in more Blood Moons. Because hell yeah. Because hell yeah. We're gonna take out 2 Qasali Pride Mages, and we'll take out 2 Bonfire of the Dams, because he's not a movie deck. But regardless, I could stick a Worship, get a giant Knight of the Reliquary, and win the game that way. Or eventually get a Flying Storm Breath if he's just rock. I'm gonna keep this, obviously, because I've got the turn 2 Blood Moon. Because of the turn 2 Blood Moon. And I have access to white through Noble Hierarch if that doesn't get bolted or something. Well, there goes our turn 2 Blood Moon. Unless he decides not to take it. Hand reveal to all players. See you later, Blood Moon. I will miss you. But who knows? Maybe we can draw another Blood Moon. There is 4 in the deck. Is in fact 4 in the deck. So, with this, I think I'm gonna put out the basic, and then put out the Wild Noctowl. I can still put out the Noble Hierarch next turn. I get a Blood Moon. Man, I wish I'd put out the Noble Hierarch. But, I'm not going to count on the Blood Moon. Dryad Arbor. which can't produce mana right now. Because it's a summoning stick. It says it on the card. Played a swamp, tapped it. What are you going to do with it? You're going to server timeout me. Dude, you are strong. Smart and played around. I should have played the Noble Hierarch. Well, it wouldn't have mattered then. If a Noble Hierarch got dismembered, I would have been left with a Noctil. It's not the worst thing in the world to be left with. I'm guessing it's a negative. But that's still fine, because we can still Noble Hierarch. Or we can still fetch and fetch again. As the saying goes. Fetch and fetch once more. I don't know anyone who says that, but I said it, so it's a thing now. And we're going to get ourselves another basic, because that's how this rolls. And play ourselves a very, very strong Knight of the Reliquary. 4/4 Knight, it is pretty big. We will attack the Lily. He's probably going to toss the Dryad Arbor in the way. I would assume that would be what happens. He can dismember as well. Dark Confidant? Sure, I can burn the Dark Confidant. Which I will be doing. And we'll ditch a path. I'm gonna Dark Confidant. I don't want that in the field. Now, Lily, he can block this way, but he loses his access to green then. And yeah, that's what I thought. So I didn't think that was gonna happen. I don't really mind him Life from the Looming as nothing's in the graveyard right now, so it doesn't really matter to me that he's got access to green. Let's see what he's got. Liliana? Sure. And he's gonna Liliana sack me? Sure. Because all that means is I still, at the end of the day, am gonna put out a Knight of the Reliquary. And I think he's probably running out of removal spells. Although the blocking of the Dryad Arbor becomes much, much better now. In fact, I should probably just fetch for lands if I get a land next turn. So that way I can cast a Stormbreath Dragon. And do a flying attack. I'm assuming he's going to make me discard a card unless he has something that he really likes. I mean, he can keep the card in his hand. I don't mind holding another Stormbreath Dragon in my hand. But I also don't mind discarding it. Yeah, it's a 5/6. That makes sense. Yep. So are you gonna make me discard or not? That is the question. So another Life of the Loam goes into the graveyard. Another one bites the dust. Well, at least, the very least, I'm gonna be able to sack my Noctil to the Lily. So we'll see what he's got here. 2 Tarmogoyfs. Sure. Tarmogoyfs. Fun fact, I can give it protection from green and take out one of those Tarmogoyfs if I really want to, as of next turn. So, I'm assuming he's going to get rid of my Lily. If he doesn't, that's fine too. And what we're going to do here is grab ourselves out a Verdant Catacombs and Temple Garden. Lose a life, bring this up to some amount. How much is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6, 6. Flagstones isn't the best thing in the world, but we're gonna go ahead and give Wild Noctowl protection from. I'm gonna give it protection from. I'm gonna have to get rid of one of my things here. I'm gonna get rid of the plains. Give it protection from green and attack the Lily, so that way we can attack straight through. And that means Lily's dead. So, no incremental advantage. You can swing for a ton now. You can swing for like, you know, bring me to 7, which is relevant. The idea here is that hopefully he draws nothing good, and I draw something awesome. Like a path would be good. Or Boom Bust, even. That would be cool. Surgical Extraction on. Naming. Sure, should have done that after attacks. Reveal library to all players. I don't need to see this. Let's see, how many things are in the graveyard? There is a sorcery, an instant, planeswalker, and a creature, as well as lands, so yeah, it's 5. Six isn't the worst damage in the world to take, and I don't mind taking it. Bolt allows me to take out his Dryad Arbor. See you later, man. See you later, man, Dryad Arbor. And because of that, I can't overrun, but I can overrun next turn, so that's no problem. But we have mana screwed him, and we screwed his colors. That's the important thing, we screwed his colors. No Abrupt Decay for you, my friends. We might be having a suicidal Noctowl coming up here. We are most definitely not having a suicidal Noctowl right now, because it's more important for us to boom bust away his resources. Get rid of said swamp. We don't want it up in here. And that will be the turn. Again, we got a block against Tarmogoyfs. But we haven't really given him a lot of things that he can do. In fact, he probably has several cards just stranded in his hand now because he has no mana. Is he dredging? Is he dredging it? What would he dredge for? I'm confused. There goes a basic forest away. Do you have a forest in hand? Is that the trickery? Did you just not play a forest? That doesn't make any sense. You're not making any sense. Come to realization. You're not making any sense. Puts forest into hand from graveyard. Oh, okay. So he accidentally just tossed it in his hand. So he has a life from the land. He's got targets for it if he ever gets a land. He does not. Alright, so Suicidal Noctowl time to knock up this. Again, it is most definitely not Suicidal Noctowl time. It is time to boom bust away the only land source this guy's got, because that's the kind of person we are. GG. It's rough. It's rough when you make sure they don't have any mana. So, yeah, just a two-color deck. Still greedy two-color deck, but two-color deck all the same. And it was pretty fun. But, yeah, so, that is how this deck runs. I hope you guys like it. If you guys really enjoy making people miserable, this is the kind of deck for you. You can change up the numbers, like I said in the beginning. You can do things that are a little bit different. And you can do whatever really you want to do. I enjoy this 61 card setup. If you guys liked the video, subscribe. You can watch more from me. Or if you feel like getting some non-zoo things, you can still jump over here. I do generally around 2 non-zoo things a week, and then a zoo thing. It's just sort of the pattern I try to go about. Try to take an existing deck, do my spin on it. You know, I other than playing zoo all the time, I'm also a big Modern player, so I might have some relevant things to talk about. But my zoo brews are always kind of fun to watch. So if you guys like it, you want to know how to play against Zoo, you want to play Zoo, or you want to play some other Modern decks, or just want to be informed on the Modern scene, go ahead and subscribe. Like the video, comment if you want to see anything specific. I actually do take requests. The last 2 I took was from one user. He asked for a landfall, and then he talked about a sort of what is it called? Cobra, whatever that's called, Cobra. Can't remember why I'm Lotus Cobra. There we go. Zoo, and I actually meant to have Lotus Cobra in here, and then it just didn't work out, so I just didn't do it. You could take away 2 Birds of Paradise for the 2 Cobras. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and remember to feed your animals.